Hi everybody, Josselyn here. So you can see I'm in a slightly different location. I'll keep it brief, and usually when we're doing these YouTube videos we kind of want them to be timeless. So if someone checks them out 10 years from now, they won't really know when and where. But we're in a time where I feel like it's really important to honor the when and where. So where I am is my spare bedroom. And the reason that I'm in my spare bedroom is because we are in the middle of a global pandemic right now with the coronavirus. And I live in California. And so we were mandated earlier this week to shut down all non-essential business. So like most people in my industry, we just really hustled and started teaching online. So this is my makeshift studio. So welcome. It's a peaceful little corner. On the other side of the camera, it's not so peaceful because everything's shoved that way. So that's where we are. So I wanted to create a practice, kind of Pilates, kind of yoga, kind of breathing, a little bit of fundamental developmental movement patterning, some release, just something really nice and yummy if you're having trouble sleeping. So this is a time of very high stress and high anxiety for a lot of people. There's a lot of unknown, which is very relevant to where we are right now in this time, in this place in the world. But also after this is over, I don't think that that's something that is going to go away quickly. So you can keep coming back to this practice if you feel like you really just need to connect with your breath, release some excess tension. We're spending a lot of time on screens, checking the news right now. So the effect that has on our shoulders, on our rib cage, on our capacity to breathe and to keep our bodies happy and relaxed is real. So what I have today is I have kind of a fancy bolster and like a yummy little wide yoga strap, but really what you can do is if you don't have a bolster, you can just stack up a couple pillows, or you can stuff two squishy or one firm pillow into a pillowcase and kind of mold it so that it's something a little more structured. And if you don't have a yoga strap, you can use a towel, you can use a bed sheet, you can steal a belt from your own closet or your partner's closet. It doesn't need to be anything fancy. This has just happened to be what I have around in my glorious studio. So here we go. So we're going to start standing and we're going to release a little bit of tension in the shoulders. So before we do that, we're just going to bring the feet about hip distance apart. You're going to close your eyes. Take a big inhale and imagine the inhale riding up the spine. And exhale, traveling down. One more time like that, either eyes open or closed, whatever feels better and more grounding to you. Inhaling open. And exhaling, letting the breath release down. Okay, we're going to go ahead and take one hand and place it on to the opposite upper trap, or like the upper shoulder area. You're going to inhale and you're going to lift the shoulder up and imagine you're squeezing an imaginary sponge in that soft tissue and lower down. So we're thinking about this less as like self-massage and more just a way to get some blood pumping into the muscles, and also to give your body a sense of where it is in space. Because when we don't have a sense of where our bodies are in space, our bodies tend to tense up to find it. So what we're doing is increasing our proprioception here. You're going to inhale, you're going to squeeze that little upper trap sponge, and you're going to turn your head from side to side. So we're keeping the shoulder lifted, keeping a bit of squeeze, and then you're going to lift your face to the ceiling and face to the floor. Face to the ceiling, keeping that nice little squeeze in that upper neck tissue, upper trap tissue. And then let it go, let your arm hang like dead weight, and you're going to continue to squeeze down the arm like you're wringing out a towel. Getting all that yucky tension dishwater out. Squeezing. And we're going to do little taps all around the neck, the armpit, the shoulder, trying to get into the surfaces of the arm and the neck that maybe feel like they don't have a lot of awareness. And then we're going to brush. Nice, deep strokes. And then just take a moment, let your arms hang. You might see me on video. One shoulder's a lot lower than the other. One arm's a lot longer than the other. And let's do the other side. So you're going to take your hand Again, to the top of the shoulder, that upper trapezius area. Gonna inhale, let the shoulder lift as you give that tissue a little squeeze and lower down. And with this kind of work, this is adapted from a brilliant man named Eric Franklin, who does a lot of imagery work. It's really nice to connect to images here, especially if your body isn't feeling so well. If you give it a clear, sometimes beautiful image, it can have a really nice effect on the tissues of the body. So rather than like assaulting your tissues with a bunch of force to try to get them to open up, we're just giving them some nice images and a little bit of space to relax on their own. So you're gonna lift the shoulder up, take that squeeze, turn your head from side to side a few times. And then lift your face to the ceiling, face to the floor, keeping that lift and squeeze. One more. And then continue to squeeze down the arm, bicep, tricep, into your elbow. And again, it's a little bit of a massage for sure, but I'm thinking less about massaging and more about really connecting to that image of like squeezing and wringing out some icky, dirty water out of my muscles. And then nice little taps, light, around all the surfaces of the neck, the collarbone, your microphone if you're wearing one, and then brush down the arm. Good. And just take a moment. Much better. So I'm going to turn to face away from you for a moment. You can still hear the sound of my voice. I'm going to take my right arm up against the wall at about a 45-degree angle relative to my shoulder. I'm going to spread my palm wide, trying to get my thumb as far away from my forefinger as possible. And then I'm going to begin to lightly revolve my body. So oftentimes when I see people do this stretch, they kind of sort of disconnect from their center and their axial skeleton. So what you're going to try to do is keep the ribs down, keep all of that tissue that we just released in the upper trap nice and soft, and then revolve the entire body. So your toes are facing the same way, your pelvis is facing the same way, your sternum's facing the same way, your eyes are facing the same way, and you're letting the arm like a giant wing just release away from the body. So we're trying to unwind here a little bit, preparing for sleep, whether that's sleep for the night, a nap, just some deep relaxation. So try to find that place where it's like 70, 80% of your max. And sometimes when we think about stretching, we think more is better. So it's one of those cases where less is more. And then I'm going to peel my fingertips away from the wall, feeling a little bit of nerve stretch and glide. Just 2 more times, peeling away. This is really helpful if you've been computering or texting or phoning. 1 more time. I think I got a bonus one in there, but that's okay. And then you're just going to let your arms slide along the wall. Setting up for side 2. I'm going to take the arm at about that 45-degree angle. Make sure your tailbone is lengthened, your ribs are in. Then I'm going to begin to revolve my body away from my arm. And I'm looking for the delicious stretch. Not the, oh my God, I feel like I'm going to die. Not the, I'm really getting something done. Looking for that nice yummy opening. Excuse my throat clearing today. One of those days. Keeping my ribs down. That area that just released, that upper top area nice and soft. And then we're going to peel the palm away. Oof. And release. If you're one of those people where your elbows can go backward and hyperextend, just keep a little softness in your elbow. And that will help your bicep, which is a texting muscle too, just like your thumb, to release out a little bit. 1 more time. Good, and then let the arms slide down. Okay, now we get to lay down, thank goodness. So we're actually gonna start on our side. I'm gonna face you. So you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna bring your pillow or your bolster, whatever you have handy, right underneath your rib cage. Okay, so kind of the thickest part of your ribs. I'm gonna go ahead and bend my bottom knee and send my top leg long, and then I'm gonna send my top arm up alongside my ear. I'm going to gently grab a hold of my top wrist with my bottom hand, and then we're going to breathe here. So as I inhale,
I'm going to think about my heel and my wrist, my whole arm going away from each other, and then exhale, simply let that activity go. Inhale, using my own body to create a bit of traction and stretch, and exhale. Make sure the front of the rib cage just stays lightly absorbed into the body so you're not going into a back bend. And let it go. Good. From there, I'm going to roll over gently to the second side. I'm going to get to the thickest part of my ribs. I'm going to bend my bottom knee, send my top leg long, reach my top arm up, grab a hold of my top wrist with my bottom hand. Inhale, stretch away, letting my top shoulder come up towards my ears. So I'm really getting the ribs some expansion. And release. Inhale, stretch away. Exhale, release. Inhale, filling the ribs up with breath. Exhale, let it go. From there, I'm going to roll over onto my tummy. I'm going to come forward a little bit. So the bolster, kind of the apex of the bolster of your blanket is right where your rib cage meets your solar plexus. And I'm going to make a little pillow for my head with my hands. So what feels best to me is to take my legs about shoulder distance apart and just kind of let the heels flop out. So we're not looking for like lengthened, energized legs here. We really want the sacrum and the pelvis to be very relaxed. And then you're just going to breathe. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Letting yourself get very heavy on the bolsters. You can see as the heavier I get, I kind of crawl my head further away from the bolster as my body starts to relax and give into gravity. Thinking about breathing where there's the most space right now. So that's in the back and the sides of the ribs. Inhaling. And exhaling. One more time, inhaling. And exhaling. I'm going to gently use my hands to press it. And last position here to open up the ribs. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to find back of my rib cage onto the bolster again. And then I want to be back far enough. If you have low back issues, again, just check in and do what feels best to you. But I want to be able to get my head back behind me and feel like my shoulders can roll backwards over the bolster with some ease. If the low back is okay, send the legs long. Have the arms in a nice soft goalpost position. And now we're going to breathe again where the bolster or pillow is creating the most space. So right here. Letting that angle where the rib cage meets, the two sides of the rib cage meet, really expand. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Letting the bones get very heavy. Now we're going to roll over onto one side, come up. And I'm going to place the bolster off to the side for a moment. Okay, and just get it out of the way behind me. And we're going to go for a little bit of hamstring stretching here. Okay, so some options. You're going to go ahead and take the band. We're going to start with the right foot. You're going to go ahead and reach the band around the ball of the right foot. And then before you rest your head down, I want you to take a look at your knee. So oftentimes we sort of connect too much to the idea of parallel in our foot. And so what I want you to do here is, just as an experiment, don't worry so much about if the foot is pointing out. honor where your kneecap is looking. So we want the back of the knee to be shining straight forward, which for most of us will make us feel like our thigh bone is a little bit turned out and the foot turns out a little bit. That's okay. The reason I'm asking you guys to do this is it's going to soften your hip flexor. So if we really turn the leg in and the kneecap kind of points towards the midline, your hip flexor is going to grab. And what we want to do here in this hamstring stretch is, one, of course, stretch the hamstrings, but two, we want to think about relaxing the thigh bone back into the pelvis because that helps the low back spread and get a bit of release. So I'm going to center my kneecap. I'm not going to worry about my foot. I like to do this little trick where I don't have to hold on as tight with my hands, so I just wrap the strap around my hands. And then if it feels good, I'm going to send the other leg long. So I'm pretty bendy. I'm not super bendy, but I'm pretty bendy. So I'm not going to like, okay, how far can I get my leg to my face right now? What I'm going to do is see where the stretch feels really relaxing. I'm going to imagine my thigh bone sinking deeper into my pelvis towards the ground. I'm going to check in with my long leg. Is it tensing? Is it tucking? Can I relax my thigh bone away from the ceiling and feel my hamstrings spreading into the ground? I'm going to inhale and exhale, and then maybe deepen the stretch just a little bit by pulling my leg towards my face and feeling my sitting bone move in the opposite direction. One more breath. I'm going to take my foot out. I'm going to let both legs be long and just feel the difference between the two sides. It's kind of cool. And then setting up for side two. So again, not as much chatting on this side, but really feeling the kneecap centered and not worrying so much right now about the foot alignment. So I'm going to make sure that the back of my knee is shining straight forward, kneecap shining straight back. I'm going to extend my other leg long. And the name of the game here is heavy. So let your shoulders be heavy. Let the back of the leg be heavy. Let your sacrum and pelvis be heavy. Let your tongue be heavy. I think my ribs just got a little heavier. That was kind of cool. One more deep breath. And relax. Okay. From there, we're going to take the bolster or your pillows. You're going to lift the hips up. And you're going to bring them on. Okay. You're going to go ahead and hold one knee in. And I'm just going to glide the opposite leg long. It's a really nice passive psoas and hip flexor stretch. I'm going to go ahead and take my left arm up alongside my ear. I'm going to let my right knee come towards my right armpit and take a little side bend over to the right. 3 nice deep breaths here. Two. Letting the ribs melt back. Letting the pelvis lengthen with the leg. Unfurling everything back in. Hug the opposite knee in, send the other leg long. Right arm up alongside the ear, left knee towards the left armpit, and then take a little side bend with your torso over. Each exhale, just letting everything fall and relax. One more. Unraveling that, place your feet down, lift your hips up gently, and move the bolster out. Then I'm going to come to face you. Okay, so I'm going to sit on the bolster for this. If you're really flexible in your hips, you might not need to, but it's kind of nice because you can give your pelvis a little bit more space. So I'm going to cross my right leg in front of my left. Okay, we're going to do both sides, so don't worry if you're opposite from me.
And then I'm going to take my hands onto my thighs and I'm just going to lift my spine up. From there, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start to reach my fingertips forward until I feel a nice little stretch in the outer hips and in my back. Keeping the pelvis grounded. And again, if you feel like you don't need the blanket or it's putting pressure on your knee, or I'm sorry, the pillow, and it feels like it's putting pressure on your knees, you can do this with the hips down on the ground, but it is a really nice release to let the knees be a little lower than the pelvis here. It helps to get deeper into the hip joint. Going to come up halfway now, and then we're going to take the hands over to your right. So ideally we want the left foot on the bottom, or the left thigh on the bottom. The right knee crossed over the left, and then we're stretching the left side of the back. Letting the body get heavy. Walking your hands back through center and roll up. And then just switch over to the other side of their legs, sitting up nice and tall. Hands to your thighs, lift up, and then start to reach forward. Over the legs, stretching into your hips. Come up halfway. Walk your hands to frame your left knee so you're on a diagonal, and then stretch away. Nice little opening through the low back and the QL. Breathing. Coming back through center, and then coming back up. Okay, so this last little release pose, it's a restorative yoga pose. I am not a restorative yoga teacher, so just know that, but this is just from my experience in teaching bodies and doing a lot of yoga over the years. But this is mainly inspired by my 2-year-old son, who still sleeps in child's pose in his little bed, and it's so cute. And so I often go and check on him, and I see him with his little tush in the air, just looking so relaxed. So you're going to come with the big toes together, knees quite wide apart, and then you're going to inch the bolster in towards your body. And you might need some extra pops to help build this up, but the idea here is that you're just letting your hips rest, and you're just nestling in. So if you need to add more props and more padding, go for it. Close your eyes. And then I'm going to leave you here. So just make sure you turn your head to the other side at some point, or if you want to be really symmetrical, you can stack your hands and let your face come down. And then spend as long as you like here until you feel fully relaxed. Breathing. Releasing. And I'm reminding myself of this daily, but just knowing that things will unfold as they unfold. And one of the most important things we can do is to take care of ourselves so that we can better take care of others. I hope you enjoyed and you get some rest. Thanks, guys. See you soon.